What's happening, guys? Welcome to Just the Radio. I got Mr Tastic Rice over here on the podcast. Ndash, bro, welcome and thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you for having me, mate.
I think we first met, it was a Ford event.
Yeah.
I don't know which one it was. We went to George. You went
Yeah,
to
it was in
as
George, the launch of the Ford Rangers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where we first met.
That was a fun event.
Fun event, but they haven't invited us in a while now. So I don't know, maybe we're not cool enough anymore.
I think there was a few like virtual launches and stuff, and that's the problem now. It's not as exciting.
Yeah, that I remember they did them. I did watch those, but there was one that actually happened last weekend. But again, I wasn't available and so forth. Yeah, that's where we basically met, and I think that was about 2-3 years ago.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, we met there, and then we did that thing with the Ford at, was it Kailami?
Yeah, the Kailami. I think it was the car show. Whatever
yeah, there was
stuff.
like some 4x4 car show.
Yeah.
And so, as I introduced you, Mr Tastic, you've obviously got this whole food brand.
Yeah.
Ndash Foods, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to explain what that is and, how it started? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, you now have actually, how many kilograms have you lost?
I've lost 16 kgs in 4 months.
Sure. And that's incredible. And that's as a chef, as someone that prepares food, as someone in the food industry, you need to taste food. You need to make sure your food's good. You need to make sure that you're trying new recipes. And obviously, constantly eating those kind of things and eating like that you're gonna put on a bit of weight. So how have you obviously now losing this weight?
So let's start back with Ndash Food. Funny enough, people think I'm a chef, and I'm not a chef. I'm a foodie. You know. I'm a marketing graduate. I did about 7-8 years in corporate doing media. And one day, literally, I just needed something new, to do. And I think from traveling, I kind of felt there was a need around celebrating South African food the best way that we can. Don't keep it the same, but just add a bit of twist. And I quit work, and then, I started it in 2013. So the rest is history. So we specialize in what we call a South African food experience. Initially, we would do the food that, as a black person, I grew up with. So sheephead, tripe, pork leg, walkie-talkies, whatever you think about it. But it's food that we enjoy. And then from there, it basically...
don't worry, it's fine.
Okay, from there, it basically became one of those things that, because of the marketing background, I found a synergy where how can I find opportunities within the food brands where how do you make tripe sexy with a great brand, And that's what I've been doing ever since. The weight stuff, we've always pushed the story of never trust a skinny chef. So that's why most of us eat and pile it up.
Which is true, though.
But I disagree with it from now on. That actually me and a friend of mine, another great chef, Chef Mbombi, we've actually started looking at an opportunity of taking South African food. And from the South African food, what we want to do is, how do you find health or healthier options from South African food? We can't constantly be promoting unhealthy when a lot of people are literally suffering from the cholesterol, high blood, heart attacks because of this. But we should always find a balance in between. That's why I think vegan sauce, vegan food, healthy options have become the big thing. But in South Africa, I look back at my grandmother. I think she lived up until she was like 95. And I could recall some of the dishes that she actually used to cook. And now when I get older, or during this health thing, I started researching it. There's a veggie, for example, called okra. I don't know if you know it. Okra is a veg. In the Indian cultures, they basically deep fry it. They make curry with it. with my culture was something that you would boil with water and salt. But okra actually is good as an advantage to help you reduce high blood pressure and cholesterol. Actually functions is that it also benefits you in terms of your heart health. That is something now that we are trying to get into in terms of that space. So for me, it became interest. I just was no longer comfortable with my size. And from not being comfortable, and then I just started cooking health food, eating plant-based, and then now learning more about South African food.
And, 2013, you quit your job to start this, obviously a passion. Was it scary? Was there doubts in your mind that it wasn't going to work? Or did you just know from the start, I'm going to make a success of this? We interrupt this podcast to bring you a special broadcast message from Nutricon. You can get 20% off, guys. 20% off on your total orders. All you do is you go on Nutricon's website. You go and you add all the products you want to your cart. You want, BCAAs. You want pre-workouts. You want whey protein. You want creatine monohydrate. Whatever you want, guys. 20% off. All you do is you add it to your cart. You check out. You follow the delivery options. Whatever you want it, wherever you want it delivered. You go. You type in the code Jester. That's JESSTER. Chester, 20% off for you guys. Thanks. Back to the podcast.
Funny enough is when I quit, I literally was doing the same thing that I resigned from. So I used to be in digital marketing. So I started in 2007 before online sales became the big thing. And when I left, I thought I had an opportunity from dealing with government because they were slow. And I felt that you could do training. I felt that you can take the departments and put them online, which 6 months later, there were promises, but never anything to feed, And I was always great with hosting. I used to be a party guy. And my first job, I used to be a sales rep for Coca-Cola, and I was in charge of doing events on top of that. And in varsity, I was in charge of a race for student, and I was in charge of doing events. In high school, I used to do events. So I basically took the opportunity that in the suburbs, there wasn't any traditional food. I took my experience of hosting events and my love for food, and I started hosting pop-up after another. And literally the story wrote itself from where it started. So it wasn't that, boom, I'm quitting work, I'm going through food. Food basically came in by chance as something that I love. And literally it opened so many doors for me as we speak. So it's like what they say is that do what you love and love what you do. It will take you somewhere.
Yeah, I think that's also, it's happened for me as well, where, you've got a passion for something. And you've, let's say, digital marketing, you've got a skill for digital marketing, you have a passion for food. Then, you see, okay, I can use my skills with my passion and, create a career out of it. I can create source of income. I can create jobs. I can help people. And it's interesting how, the conventional route, and that's how obviously entrepreneurs are made, is they have skills. Then they also obviously see a need within a market that they really love and are passionate about. And then they kind of bring them together and then obviously make a success out of it.
That's true, because another interesting thing, as a parent, my daughter's only 9. An interesting thought that comes in. So when we were growing up, for example, is that we had to go to school because school is all of these things. But if you start looking at a lot of people and the line of work that they do, they no longer into the space of what they studied, but it's all about what can make money for you. Yeah. Now it becomes interesting of, yesterday I was sitting with my daughter. So my daughter has, I don't know if it's a skill. I don't know. It's because she's a kid. But she's great with hair, in terms of plaiting, and she likes even doing all these colorful things, And I pull back and I look at her as a parent and say to myself, will I be one of these parents that basically force a child to go to varsity? Or will I be one of these parents that basically, when my daughter's old enough, I will hustle enough to saying, baby, if you want to open a salon and you make it yours, let's do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So again, I think passion now is becoming the future rather than the educational background and stuff. People now are doing, what they love to make a living out of it.
And at the end of the day, that's far more rewarding than going to a desk job or going to some corporate, workplace and just doing what someone tells you to do. And, there's not much job satisfaction in just going somewhere, being told what to do. At the end of the day, it's done. There's nothing, you should wake up every day with excitement for the rest of the day.
I agree with that. At the same time, with the things that I do, like food, I kind of feel like it's the same thing as a job now, that out of interest, as before we started this, I was telling you, I actually want to try something else that's different. I want to travel, I want to camp. I want to, actually, a new hobby that I want to do is videography and photography, but more incorporated with food and traveling with nature. And I want to see how far that could go, I've been traveling around SA trying to experience all of these different events that take place, but not these city events, but these bush experiences. And, I kind of feel that's the kind of space that I want to get into going forward. And I don't want to wake up and do a 9 to 5, in the next 5-10 years, I just want to work once a year, make good money and enjoy my life.
Yeah.
Or work when I want to work, so it's definitely interesting times. And I think passion grows, passion changes, opportunities that arise as you get older. But end of the day, we need things that will assist us in paying for the bills, if you get my drift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You now, obviously, as being a dad, I see so you made a fatherhood Instagram page. That's quite cool.
Yeah.
So now, if you had to give parents advice, because obviously your daughter's 9, but let's say she's 18 now.
Yeah.
She says, Dad, I've got this passion. I want to open up my own salon. I think it's also as difficult as parents to be like, okay, well, here's money, or okay, well, I can't just give you money. Maybe start at the bottom, make your way up, buy the salon you're working at, that kind of stuff. Obviously it's difficult as a parent because people still think that, degrees are safe. They still think that if you got a degree, you sorted for life, which isn't the case anymore.
Look, how many people have degrees are unemployed today? The numbers are getting higher and higher.
Yeah.
If you follow the Asian, if you follow the European or the American, how many people have become successful just following their passion without any education? I think as parents, we need to become the supporting structure. You can't just give your child money, say, open a business. But you can help them, or you can find people that could help them to build that business. There are issues that I felt that most parents, most parents basically forced their kids. So growing up, parents wanted us to become engineers, doctors, lawyers, accountants, because they felt it was a safe space for security. But those are the people is that no parents actually ever supported the passion, the love, the talent, the dream. You find those odd ones.
Yeah.
We as parents, if you've got an 18-year-old, look, in any way, in any form, I still say education is still important. Let your kid go and do a course. Let them continue learning and understanding and evolve. You can't really say that here's a business, I'll help you. What happens when you're not there? But let us find a balance where they can do what they love and make a living, but at the same time, let us equip them with the skills that they need. So like I said, is you can go to a school and do a course. You don't have to do 3 years, because the 3 years for me is to sit in a company. after high school, I never understood something that happened along a white culture. So you had a lot of people that when we were finished with school, we were the first one who literally ran to varsity. And you had mates that literally went into their parents' businesses. They went to work for a spa. 4 years down the line, you still trying to finish your degree. The Oak is a manager. The Oak has a car. He's married. He has a house and everything. And you never understood that most of the time today, it's no longer about the so-called degrees, but it's about the hard work that one person basically put in. So you could see a person working in a spa, but in the back end, spa is actually equipping them with some courses that are actually upskilling them to learn more and more and more. And these are the kind of things that I think as the futuristic parents, we need to start adapting. If we use the same way as our parents, grandparents, we're going to keep on getting the same results. But the world is changing to what it is. We need to change with the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's Albert Einstein's quote. Something is, you can't expect something different when you're constantly doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Changed the words a lot there, but so like it's difficult, I think, as parents, because also you don't want to be like, okay, don't go study, follow your passion, do this. And obviously, I mean, most people are let's say you get a job after school straight away without any experience or anything. You're obviously going to get a very low paying job that you're probably not going to be able to support yourself just off that.
Yeah.
So as parents, it's difficult to be like, okay, go do that. I will still support you slightly. I'll still be able to help you with certain things, because if you get a job out of school with no experience, you're not going to be able to pay for your medical aid and that kind of stuff. So you need to obviously help them as a parent, but then also you can't give them too much because they need to be taught the value of hard work.
I agree with that. And that's why I said as parents, we need to think differently. We need to guide, we need to support, we need to teach. And I go back again to what I said earlier, is that I still believe that education is important. But I don't think that 3 years sitting for a degree is important, anymore.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is, you have people sitting with master's degrees who are unemployed. You have people with no degree, but through hustling, through hard work, are making it work. The element was back in the days was that education was everything. But the world is changing, and from it changing is people who have matric are becoming successful photographers. People who are good with people's skills are becoming dealership and sales managers in companies. Not because they are put there, but because of hard work. Everything in this world, and it's crucial for parents to teach their kids, is that easy come, easy go. As you said, is that you get a job. From getting a job, I will assist you where I can, but at the same time, I will guide you on some of the things that if you're in this job because you have no degree, how do you move above? So, okay, fine. Maybe the school, let's do a part-time course, Most companies also today actually offer those things where they'll take you to school and you basically equip yourself. And that's what is key into this. So I also don't believe in the philosophy of give, because people that get given things, they don't understand and value of hard work,
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's like 98% of people that win the lottery blow it in the first year. When you're given something that you don't deserve or you haven't worked for, you're not going to understand the value of actually keeping it.
Look, that is true. And look, a lotto is something else. Even if you went to school, for an example, if you won yourself the lotto, you didn't work for it, like you said. But I think no school, nothing, because there's no manual, can teach you, honestly, the value of money. I believe the value of money, starts from at home. So if in the house where you are raised, they value money, you will value money.
Yeah.
If it's weekends and they're saying, no, we'll give you the 10,000 rand every month, but these are the chores that you need to do. you will do that. Guess what happens after working hard and you get that money? You're going to blow it. Do you understand? Because it's your money. But you have to go through those stages in life of wastages, of losing money, of doing stupid things to get to being equipped of understanding of what money is.
Yeah.
You will never understand the value of a shoe for 3,000 Rand if your parents have always bought you shoes for 3,000 Rand. But if you have money that you were given by your parents to go and buy a shoe for 20,000 Rand, and end of the day, not even given money, apologize, you've worked for it, you buy it, and then someone takes that from you, you understand the value. You see. So it's a partnership.
Yeah.
And support. And removing the old way of thinking, and basically, I believe, including the new way of being a supportive parent.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know with my dad, obviously I grew up in amazing amounts of privilege.
Yeah.
However, my dad still said, this was still when Blackberries were around. He's like, Jesse, I can afford to buy you a Blackberry, but I'm not going to. You need to save up your allowance. You need to maybe go to the neighbor, wash their car, do that kind of stuff. So obviously build that value of money and the value of hard work, that you need to do something. You need to do it well to be able to earn something, you know? And that's what he taught me from young, was if you want something, you need to work for it.
Yeah.
He said, also, I mean, obviously, I mean, not many people get given a car when they're 18. But obviously, like, in the white community, in the school I was in, it's far more common.
Yeah, it's common.
Yeah, it's more common. So I got a car. He's like, Jesse, I can get you a nicer car, but I'm not going to.
Yeah.
I can afford a nice car for you, but I'm not going to. This is the car you are getting because it's your first car. You know, you're lucky just to be getting a car.
Yes.
You need to understand the value of it. You don't take it to the car wash. You wash it yourself. Don't, you know, do those kind of things. Every time you check those tires are pumped, you like those. And he like showed me, you know, the whole thing of changing tires. He says you make sure that whenever the tires, something's wrong, you fix it. If there's something wrong, you look at what's wrong. And, you know, it teaches you the value of things. I had friends when I was in school that their iPhone broke. Next week, their dad bought them a new one.
Yeah.
And then you don't actually understand the value of things.
That is true. You know, I believe my dad, if he wanted to buy me a car in high school, he would have, but he never did. I had a part-time job. You know, I remember, I think a month, I used to earn somewhere like between 800 and like 1,003.
When was this?
Yo, now you're taking me back to the days. I think my first part-time job was like, I think in 1999. I used to earn like 10 Rand an hour.
Sure.
And I remember there was a Beetle that I'd found. It had no engine. It just had the body, and they were selling the body for 800 Rand. And I wanted to buy it. And my dad was like, you're crazy, you know, because he didn't want to buy me a car. But over the years, you know, one of the things that I appreciated was my parents did the basic. Was school, was food, was clothing, and so forth. And wasn't about fancy things, you know. So I learned to fend for myself. That I remember I had this part-time job, and then I had to move to Durban for school. So when I'd come back to Nelspruit, obviously the part-time job wasn't available. And my dad had a small factory where they used to manufacture sweets. But all these sweets will pile up at home. You know, from piling up at home, they'd be sitting in the garage because they didn't know how to sell them. They could make them, but didn't know how to. So I would take the bakkie, and literally I would drive around the entire Nelspruit. In a day, I'd probably make about 1,000, 1,500. And the messed up part about it is my father never gave me that money. He took it for himself. You know, he says, but I still give you money. But anyway, it taught me a skill. You know, I've sold funeral insurance policies, you know, without even understanding what that was. One of the things that my dad also actually shared with me that was great was around my first job. He said, whatever you do with your first paycheck, buy a bed. When I got paid the first time, that's what I bought. I bought a bed. And up until today, I'm very, very grateful for that bed. because from buying a bed, it led me to getting my own place. And he helped me with a stove, things that were not being utilized. And that was like my first apartment in Maritzburg. And so I've always valued hard work. From there, my father passed, I think, 9 years ago. And I remember what one of my father's best friend actually said at the funeral was how my father was never worried about me because he always knew that I'll be okay. Because he might not have told me, but he would see what he had instilled in me, the principle of hard work. Because even my first job, my father knew a lot of people. My father was an HR director at one stage. He could give me, there's no job in my life that was ever given to me by a friend, a family connection or anything. At Coca-Cola, when I worked there, I knew nobody. You know, it was just a guy who went for an interview and I blew it up. And that they like, damn, we want you. You know, when I worked my first media job in Rosebank, I'd never sold digital marketing because I didn't know it. But I came and they gave me a task and said, if you had this, how would you do this? And I came back and I presented 2 weeks later. And they were like, wow, you know. And then from there, literally, and all of these things, they come from the same principle you said, is that the value of hard work. You know, we are called hustlers for a reason, but it comes from something that is instilled in you. You know, the guys that get given things, put them in the world, they could never stand on their own because they expect things to be given to them. They expect things to be done for them, you know, and that's maybe why today I'm able to stand here and saying, look, I don't have everything, but the little that I do or I'm able to make, you know, I'm grateful for, you know, and it's just allowed me to dream even bigger, if you get me.
What's interesting is, you know, some people, given things or not given things, some people just don't want to be, you know, like, obviously success is different. People define success differently, but some people just they're not driven. They're just happy to, as long as I'm getting paid at the end of the month, as long as I can provide for my family, as long as I can, you know, have a roof over my head, you know, it doesn't matter, as long as I'm comfortable. I think that's also what's different between like entrepreneurs and people that start their own businesses and people that obviously are employed. Obviously, everybody starts out employed, but, you know, for those people that want to chase something and, you know, it's like the art of the hustle. It's enjoying putting yourself in the deep end. It's enjoying, you know, being in a position where you're not actually equipped with the skills, but you learn on the spot what to do. And that's what, you know, separates someone that is able to start their own business and make a success of it, and that's someone that's just complacent, sitting in a job, getting paid the same salary every month, and that's never going to improve, but they're happy with it.
Look, the other thing, you know, I think what holds a lot of people, according to me, is fear. The other issue is people have wrapped themselves around wealth, status, that they're afraid to start from scratch. And typically, there's a lot of people, I can tell you, who are in corporate jobs who love the drive of corporate. And there's also the other people who are in corporate who hate it so much, but they are there because it's a safe space, you know? And this thing that we speak of hustling, of what, you know, you will never know until you do it. Just again, not everyone is a hustler. Not everyone is going to be a hustler. And sometimes you probably have to fall like 50 million times before you basically see the big opening in your life. But people are afraid of letting go of all of these materialistics that they have, you know, because it defines them. And I think one of my greatest moments in the life was losing the little that I had to having nothing, you know, to start appreciating everything that I have today. You can't hold on to a car when you can't afford it. And sometimes why want to afford a car that takes half of what you pay yourself? You know, some people would lie to you and saying, you know, a car basically unlocks doors for you because people see it and think, you know, oh, this guy, you know, we must talk to him. But sometimes what happens is people, when they see you with a big car, they're saying, but this guy doesn't need any help. He's fine. So all of those things.
I think it's interesting also the car thing. And it's something that most people, the moment they start doing well, it's the first thing that they would buy for themselves is the car, because the car at the end of the day is something people are going to see you in. And, you know, people want other people to be like, yo, that guy's made it, that guy's successful. And I think at the end of the day, if that's your driving force, it's not as good as, you know, someone that's driven by passion and just driven by challenges and driven by, because if you just driven by money, if you just driven by, I want to look good so that other people can look up to me, or I want to, you know, wear certain clothes just so that people be like, yo, he's better than me. You know, then obviously your motivations are a bit skewed. And at the end of the day, when things get tough, you're probably not going to make it as much as the person that enjoys when the times are tough and enjoys pushing themselves past their boundaries.
Look, Jay, you know, the interesting thing, it goes back to what you are taught, what you see, what you know. If we are being honest, you know, we all have dream cars that if a bank can approve you on it and you sit and you calculate whatever you calculate and you think you can afford it and they approve you buy it, you know, you're going to drive it. And before for anyone else, mostly it's for you, but people are going to see you in it and that will boost your ego in a way. It's the same thing as clothes. You know, clothes, cars, the good life. If you've never had it, when the opportunity of you presents itself of having it, there's only a few people that will say, you know what, I'm good.
99% of people are going to do it.
Yeah. Most people are going for it because the life thing, and I say the life thing, you could never understand the way a person thinks until you've been in their shoes. The reasons why people do certain things until you've been in their shoes. But you have to go through a full cycle of life where you are entitled to get to a point where you're appreciative, where you have nothing to have something. You know, you find a guy who grew up poor. Their drive is success is to have money because they've never had money. And when they get to the top, you have two types of those people who grew up poor, who make it to the top, who then says, okay, I have it, so what? The other one will continue looking down on people. The other one will say, I'm here, let me help others because it's not nice there. So it's a 360 thing of this life thing that we have to go through as humans, as individuals, as people. You have people that come from families that, you know, when you were a kid, you had everything and either your parents die or your parents lose it all. And where it starts making sense, where you should be living your life, you now moved out of this huge mansion, you live in an apartment and you don't understand. And as a kid, you go depressed, you go what, and you know. So life is, there's no formula, according to me. Success, there's no formula. You know, everyone has to do what they have to do in order to find their ways.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of people on social media that obviously sell this formula. Like there's a lot of like motivational speakers that obviously are selling something that just to get people to buy it and obviously make more money on the formula of how to win in business, how to do certain things. But there's so many different ways. There's no one set formula. And especially in life. I mean, your story is completely different to mine. My story is completely different to my brother. Like everyone's got a completely different story, regardless of where you are, what you've been through. You know, everything is how you as a person adapt to it, how you grow from it, if you're able to adapt, if you're not able to adapt. And, you know, that's what's nice about like these podcasts, is just sitting down with someone with a different culture, a different background, someone that's from a different area in the world, in the province, whatever, the South Africa. And it's nice to be able to talk to them and be able to share certain tips, certain topics, and, just discuss. And because I think as humans, we can benefit so much from each other.
Yeah.
We can learn so much. And that actually, I want to ask you, how do you, because obviously there's a lot, like the white culture, we'll be scared to try some of those dishes because obviously it's foreign.
Yeah.
But also there was a time when white people were afraid to try an Indian curry.
Yeah.
So like, how do you kind of break into like a white market?
I think it was in 2014, if I'm not mistaken. I had a pop-up, in Melrose Arch. And there was a lady who just saw a nice setup, and she was walking by and she says, you know what? Let me try this thing out. We used to do something called traditional food and wine. And when she came to the event, she happens to be from Illinois, Chicago, American.
Okay. So
we have a dish in South Africa which is called hard body chicken. It's actually those farm chickens, those not the processed ones, fresh one, but it's some call them organic. We call it hard body. And basically that was the safest option for her, so she went for it. But it's not grilled, it's not roasted, it's just basically boiled with a lot of spices and herbs and so forth. And when she was done, for an American person who said to me, this is the best chicken I've ever had, that basically changed my perspective, and I started researching certain things of why is it that white people will go to China and try snake? They will go to Morocco and eat monkey's brain because it's a dish in other countries, And I went on to saying people's palates are not the same, but we need to find a common ground on taste. What's the other guy at KFM? I think it's David O'Sullivan. White guy.
Yeah.
I cooked pork trotters, which is pork feet. And I remember I did 2 dishes. I did something where I took pap and I created it into a garlic pap instead of garlic bread. And I served that with mussels in chakalaka spicy sauce. And he kept on raving about the garlic pap. Why? Because he's not a pap everyday eater. But because he ate pap that had garlic, he could associate. So one of the things that I've always done when it comes to my food is I add a twist. I hosted people from Argentina about 2 years ago in Bryanston, where I went and I did tripe, but it was a spicy tripe with chorizo. So chorizo as a sausage actually on its own releases certain flavors. So firstly, when you get into it is that, you taste the sauce. They enjoyed it. They ate it. I took the same chicken that we call hard body and I actually did a peri-peri grilled chicken with it. So it wasn't the fresh chicken. It was the same process, but I just twisted it. With David, he actually enjoyed the sauce even from the pork trotters. On a normal day, he said that I wouldn't actually eat this. So we go out of our way to basically change how people look at food. Also the presentation, also the cleanliness, also the dishing up and stuff, So those are the kind of things that I've been trying because as a traveler, you get to see the different worlds through their eyes. How are we selling our world? If there are restaurants that are owned by black people, Are they accommodative to white people? That is also another thing. You know, you can't just basically just go because there's a new restaurant. There has to be a reason. There has to be the hype. You know what I'm saying? And this is why I'm actually opening up a cafe, you know, in Midrand, where I want to try and set up these experiences more often, where from a cultural diversity background, I want to get an upcoming Afrikaans chef and say to them, find a way of telling your story through your story, but also incorporate South Africa as a mix. And we do a hosting. So food is actually something very interesting that I'm looking forward for many years to come. And just to change the perspective. And also, when I was in China, one of the things that moved me, and this is actually where my Ndash food actually came from. Chinese people are never going to take you to an American steakhouse. They're not going to take you to a whatever. Chinese people, if you're in China, they will treat you to an authentic Chinese experience, which is something that we lack. You know, if you were to have a friend that comes from overseas and they're saying, I want South African food, the first thing you think of is chisenyama.
Yeah.
Like, really. Everywhere in the world, people bribe it.
Yeah.
You know? But what about you taking, have you ever had a Gatsby?
Yes. I have it in Cape Town, yeah.
So when I go to Cape Town, I have to try a different Gatsby because it's their dish.
Yeah.
When I go to Durban, I go and I look for the best place that makes the most authentic curries. So that's the kind of foodie that I am. You know, when I was in Italy, you know, it wasn't Italy. I actually loved it. It was in Scotland.
Okay.
And when I went to Scotland, one of the funniest things was I looked for a dope Scottish dish. And when I say dope Scottish dish, it was, tell me the authentic Scot. It was some terrible dish with like shredded meat with a lot of what we call mixed veggies in a tin, you know.
Is it not haggis?
No, there was a funny name of it. And I was like, wow, this. And then I pushed further in London. And I couldn't find proper London food except it's mash, gravy, and a pie. I remember spending, I think it came to, I forgot even the conversion when I came to South Africa, is that I spent so much money eating crap. You know, I could eat, what's this place? Burger King, not Burger King.
McDonald's.
No, the King pie.
Okay.
And I could still have the best pie, you know? So for me, when you speak about food plays a big part that once I've settled in, because it's been pop-up stores most of the years I've been serving, I hope that you as a white person will find the reason to say, you know what, let me go to Ndash's Cafe and try food because I just want to try something different.
Yeah. And I think that's what's nice, because when you smell something or you taste something that reminds you of your childhood, obviously it brings back those positive memories and it makes you feel happy. And if you can mix that experience of me feeling happy of the food my mom used to make mixed with experiencing new South African cuisine, obviously then it's a great balance.
That's why I think, so my slogan has changed, but what we used to, first it used to be in Ndash Food was about memories. Then it was the closest thing to mom's cooking, you know. It was then a home away from home, you know. That's what we are literally trying to do, is to create taste, is to create memories and to create experiences. That's what I think as a story I'm trying to do with my food overall.
And I think that's people in general, humans. We enjoy having food, having good food, and experiencing things and experiencing food with each other, and experiencing each other's community, and just being with other people while you eat is so much better than just being by yourself while you eat.
One of the greatest meals that I've actually honestly enjoyed was Jewish food, tapas in Norwood. of how I love even how they bring in small dishes and they serve, and literally when you walk out having tried many types of food, and it's something that I'd actually like to do, because whether you go to a restaurant, you go to Santon, to wherever, you're not always going to like what they're serving. That is the truth. But I think if you could have a massive offering, you will always get something that you enjoyed, even if it's not everything, which still makes it worth your while.
Yeah. And I think as humans, I've seen it with many, and it's the younger generations maybe a bit different, but my parents' friends, it's what's comfortable to them. Food that they have always just eaten is what the restaurant they've always going to is just the restaurant they're just going to continue to go to. And maybe the younger generation has changed that, but wanting to experience new things, experience new cultures, and that restaurant, yes, I haven't tried them, let me go there, even though they, like tonight I feel like Indian food.
Yeah.
Let me go to a different Indian restaurant. Let me find a smaller Indian restaurant. Let me find one that's on the street rather than in an actual restaurant. Trying different things. It's neat. As humans, we do need to try new things because the experiences that it can bring. I mean, if I go to your restaurant, I might meet someone that told me about growing up in a certain part of South Africa, and then I've benefited from that experience.
Yeah. Look, that's why I always share my story. Is I'm from a place called Komatipoort. Komatipoort is the small dorpy farm town by the end of South Africa with Mozambique border. But I've had the privilege, I've lived in Witbank, I've lived in Nelspruit, I've lived in Durban, I've lived a bit in Cape Town, because my parents sort of had like a place that side at one stage. And now I'm in Joburg. I've had the privilege of traveling to Mozambique, to Swaziland, to Botswana, basically. And all of these places, I always just try different food that I've never had. In China, I remember I tried something, but it didn't taste like meat, so I threw it away and I was like, check please, and then I left. But it didn't stop me from going to another restaurant. You know what I'm saying? So for me, food is something I'm really, really passionate about. I really, really love, and I would still love to explore. And how do I get South Africans to sit under one table and share a meal, whether it's being cooked by a black chef, white chef, Indian chef, colored chef, doesn't matter. But I think people should have a different eye on food. And like, as you said, it's most people are stuck on what they are used to, where they are used to going, that it becomes difficult. But you limit yourself when it comes to that, especially when it comes to food. I don't like fine dining, especially when I travel abroad. I actually enjoy street food because that's where you get the best of food, according to me. Fine dining is normally...
They do it for the tourists, or they do it for the people, the general population. Whereas on the street, it's the little burrito shop. When you're in Mexico, the oak that sells his burritos on the side of the street is probably going to be less commercialized than the Chipotle or whatever.
In France, I actually enjoyed a lot of Albanian food. So it's sort of like the shama meat, and sort of like with their rice, and sort of like with, I dig street food. Other place that I haven't been, I'd love to go to is like America. And strictly, I just want to, they speak of a burger, I want to try the burger,
Yeah.
When they speak of smoked ribs, like Texas style, barbecue, I want to try that and come back and saying, nah, there's things they're feeding us here as ribs is nothing compared to this, Yeah.
And for you yourself, what cooking shows do you watch? Do you watch much cooking shows?
I watch a lot of content that I find on YouTube, on Netflix, that I relate to. So there's an interesting one. I actually forgot what the name of is, but something what about people, which was actually interesting on how they cook. It's on Netflix. They cook lamb. So literally they would cut and slaughter the sheep, and they will take the tripe, which is like a bag, wash it properly, and literally inside the tripe bag, they would actually take the meat of the lamb and they would put it in there. And then they take these stones, okay, that they heat up up about to 200 degrees. And literally they put it in the same bag with some seasoning and so forth, and then they lock the tripe bag. But it takes about 15 minutes. And the meat comes out looking so perfectly and so soft. For me, that was like an interesting concept of how, you take tripe, which is something that a lot of people throw away, if not we eat it, but they use that as a way to cooking,
Yeah.
There's the other concept, I think it's in Turkey, where I think I've seen it mostly, where they roast something covered in mud. I don't know if you've seen. So they would take like a lamb and they would season it, put it in a foil, put it in what, and then cover it. And then take mud, cover the foil into it, and literally put it into fire.
Sure.
And you can imagine that from the mud, from the foil, when that meat comes out, it's so soft.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating. There's so many stuff. There are people in the US that do this barbecue grill stuff, that build their own customized grillers where they can put something for a good 24 hours. Where in America, people actually travel to what Big Jim's Kitchen, basically for the ribs.
Yeah.
And then you ask yourself, in SA, where would you say you are willing to travel for 500, 1,000 Ks because they sell the best burger? And the truth is, we don't have those places.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of things I do search, and I find that inspire me to look at food differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's also that one show, Man Fire Food.
Yeah.
Where he goes around America and looks at different ways of barbecuing, different ways of cooking meat under the ground, digging holes, and that kind of stuff is very interesting. And it's amazing to see how creative people can become just to cook a meal.
100%. So it's look, food is you in the simplest form. There's no right or wrong way. Everyone experiments with food. And some get it right, some get it wrong. But food is what you like. Some like it spicy, some like it salty, some like it less salt. But food, again, it is you. And until, you get out of your comfort zone, you'll never get to experience the flavors of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bro, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
We'll definitely have to do it again.
With pleasure, my man.
And guys, thank you very much for listening. Cheers.